What's up everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna continue working on the Lexus. So last time I left off on the downpipe, I was trying to weld this oxygen sensor bung, but I was using the wrong electrode. I lost my stainless steel electrode, so I was using the one for the aluminum, and I just did a big hole right here, so I couldn't weld it until I got the right electrode. I finished welding it already, so I'm gonna go ahead and install these. Then I'm gonna go back to the intercooler piping. For the intercooler piping, I have to weld the flange on the intake first, and then I'm gonna finish off my intercooler piping. I also gotta weld a flange on the piping itself because I'm gonna be running a master flow sensor since I'm gonna be using the stock computer. So I gotta weld a flange for the throttle body, and I gotta weld a flange for my master flow sensor. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and install these. Then I'm gonna go back to the car and I'm gonna show you guys what's going on. I already installed my downpipe, so that's ready to go. I'm pretty much done with the exhaust side of the engine. I'm gonna move on to the intake. So I'm gonna be removing the intake because I gotta cut this flange off. I'm gonna be welding this one on. This flange is so that I can bolt on the GT throttle body. So the bolt pattern is different and it's not gonna work with that flange. I gotta use this one right here. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of the intake. Then I'm gonna throw it back on. I'm gonna work on the intercooler piping. I also have to weld this flange for the master flow. Once I finish all of that, I'm gonna go back to the fuel system. I gotta bolt on my injectors and I gotta do my feed line. Then I can move on to the harness. I got my intake right here. I just finished cutting my old flange. So this is the old flange, and I cut it off. I also sanded this flat so that I'm able to weld this on. But before I weld this on, I gotta put these inserts. There is no thread, and honestly, I can't do any thread anymore because the hole is bigger than the bolt. So I'm gonna be putting these inserts. Once I do that, I'm gonna clean the intake because there's a lot of debris from when I cut the flange off. I gotta clean it inside, and then I should be able to weld the bracket back on. Okay, so I just finished welding my flange. Not the greatest, but at least it's welded on. I still need to practice more on welding aluminum. I'm gonna go ahead and figure out the injectors. I was gonna use these 2J injectors. They're 440s, but they're not gonna bolt onto the intake. They're off by a little bit, so I don't know if I'm gonna make them fit. I got 370s from a 1J. I might use the 370cc's instead of the 440s, but honestly I wanted to go with the bigger injectors because I'm able to make more power. You know, I can turn up the boost a little bit more and I could get it closer to like 350, but we'll see. I'm either gonna modify the intake to make this injector speed, or I'm just gonna go with the different size injectors. Okay, so this is pretty much how the intake is gonna look. I didn't want to use the original throttle body, but I have to because I'm gonna use the GT computer from factory. So if I don't use this throttle body, it's not gonna shift. So that's the only reason why I'm using this throttle body. But I mean, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, once I put it in the car, I think it's gonna look a lot better. But I'm gonna go ahead and figure out those injectors. So I want to use this fuel rail and these injectors, and I'm gonna see if I'm able to do it. If not, then I'm just gonna use the 1JC injectors. But we'll see. We'll see if I'm able to use them. Okay, so most likely I'm gonna be using the 1JC BBTI injectors. And for sure, I'm gonna go with the 2JC GE rail, but I'm not gonna worry about this right now. I'm gonna go ahead and install the intake. I'm gonna finish the intercooler on the driver's side. Once I finish that, then I'll come back to the injectors, and I'm gonna make a decision whether or not to use these ones or just get bigger ones. Okay, so this is how it looks. So I'm gonna clean the radiator first because it's dirty. I haven't cleaned it. I'm just gonna clean it real quick. Then I'm gonna remove the condenser. I have the old condenser in here. I got the new one over here. So I'm gonna install the new condenser, and I'm gonna connect this AC line. Once I do that, I'm gonna start doing the intercooler piping. And I already know what I'm gonna do with the injectors. I'm definitely gonna get bigger ones. I got the fuel rail, I got the fittings. So once I get the injectors, I'm gonna put them on and I'm gonna connect them. And lastly, I have to worry about the harness, but that's not a big deal. I already know what I'm gonna do with the harness. So I'm gonna go ahead, clean that radiator, install the condenser, and finish that intercooler piping. Here's my new condenser. It looks a lot nicer than the old one. I got the old one over here, so this one's kind of damaged. That's why I didn't want to use it anymore. And I got my radiator over here. I cleaned it already. I'm not gonna install it right now because I still gotta install the compressor. So I'm gonna install the compressor right now, and I'm gonna start working on my intercooler piping. I'm almost done with the intercooler piping. I just gotta do this side. So I'm gonna finish the intercooler piping. I'm gonna install the compressor, and I'm also gonna bolt on the power steering pump. I don't think I'm gonna leave it there because I still gotta do my harness, and it's gonna get in the way of the intake, taking it off and putting it back on. So I'm just gonna bolt it on just to see if everything clears, and I'm gonna take it off again. Okay, so I just finished installing my compressor. I got my compressor in, my power steering pump. I couldn't install the reservoir. I have it over here. So this is the reservoir, but it doesn't clear the intake anymore. So it goes like this, and it doesn't clear the intake, so there's no way for me to use this anymore. I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna go ahead and use an external reservoir. I'm gonna bolt it on somewhere on the engine bay, but I'm not even worried about that because there's ways around it, so I'm not concerned. Okay, so now I'm gonna start doing the intercooler piping on this side. Okay, for the intercooler piping, I'm gonna leave it the way it is. So this is a 90-degree coupler. I'm just gonna add a 45. I'm gonna do a 90 to go to the front, and then another 90 to connect to the intercooler. I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna weld everything together. Like on this side, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave a coupler on the top and a coupler on the bottom. All right, so I expanded the hole. I made it like 4 inches, and I'm using my first angle. So this is a 45. This pipe right here, it has a 45-degree angle. Let me see if you can see it a little bit better over here. So this pipe has a 45-degree, and this one has a 90. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go underneath the car, and I'm just gonna do another 90, and then it's gonna be pretty much 2 more 90s. I got my pieces stacked together, so there's 3 of them. I was gonna try to weld them on the car, but I still need a lot of practice with aluminum, so I'm just gonna do it on the table. Okay, so I got my piece on the table. I'm just gonna finish welding it right now, and hopefully it comes out good. Okay, so there's my piece all welded together. I kind of learned how to TIG weld aluminum now. I was practicing right here, and I didn't do that bad, but I think it all comes down to adjusting the machine and, I mean, being stable. So, I mean, it's a process, but I'm getting it. You know, I'm happy that I'm doing a lot better. So hopefully, pretty soon I'll be able to weld anything I want. But for now, I still gotta keep on practicing. But let me go ahead and install these on the car, and let's see how it looks. Okay, so there's my piping installed. I mean, it looks okay for what it is. I'm happy with it. So I'm pretty much done with the intercooler piping. This is the other side. I mean, I'm pretty happy the way it came out. So now I'm gonna move on to the next thing. So this throttle cable is not long enough. I got another one. I think I got this one from Camry. It's a little longer, so I'm gonna try this one on. And I also got a set of injectors, so I'm gonna try to do the fuel rail and the injectors. And lastly, I think I have to do the power steering. I got AN fittings and I got hoses, so I'm gonna do a fit line and a return. For the pressure line, I'm just gonna reuse the same one. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that, and I'll show you guys the progress. Okay, so I just finished my bracket. So this is what I did. This is gonna be my throttle cable bracket. And I'm just gonna use the throttle body bolt, and then this right here on the intake, and it should be stiff enough. It should be able to hold it. So I'm gonna go ahead and install everything, and I'm gonna show you guys how it looks. Okay, so this is how it looks. It's something simple, but I know for sure it's gonna work. It's super stiff. I put a grommet in between the bracket and the intake, like this one, because I don't want this bracket to scratch the intake. This is like an insert. So you just like put it in between. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the power steering. I gotta do the fit line, the return, and I gotta do the reservoir. Then once I finish that, I'm gonna start doing the fuel rail. Okay, so I got everything I need to finish the car. So pretty much this is gonna be for the power steering. I got my fit line and my return. I also got a couple of fittings. So I'm gonna be using AN fittings, and this is my external tank. So I'm gonna be using an external tank because the other one didn't fit, and this is a lot nicer too. Since I'm gonna go with AN fittings, I needed a special fitting for the power steering. So I'm gonna be using this. This is a size 8 AN fitting. So I'm gonna be using this for the fit line. And this is gonna be the other one I'm gonna use. I also got size 10. I got another size 10 over here. But I'm gonna be using the size 8 because it fits a lot better. And for my return, it's just the hose. So this is for the power steering. Now I want to service the coils, and to service the coils, all you have to do is replace the little coil in the booth. So I got 3 of them for my 3 coils. And for the injectors, I'm gonna go with a little bit bigger injectors. These are slightly bigger than the 440s. And this is my feed line. So I'm gonna be using Teflon. I'm not gonna run E85, but this hose lasts a lot longer than rubber, so that's why I'm using this one. And I also had to get a couple of fittings because I have 14. This is size 14 injectors, and I need to convert them to size 11. And this is the fitting for the intake, so I have to use this fitting so I can use the size 14. And for the fuel rail, all I have to do is some brackets so I can bolt it onto the intake, and that's it. So I'm gonna work on the power steering first, then I'm gonna service the coils, and lastly I'm gonna install my fuel rail and my injectors. Okay, so for the reservoir, I'm just gonna do a bracket, and I think I'm just gonna set it right here. I mean, I have nowhere else to put it. I mean, I could put it on this side, but it'll be too far. And this is the closest to the pump. So like I said before, I'm just gonna do a bracket, and I'm gonna bolt it on right here. Okay, so here's my bracket. It's not the greatest, but it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these on the car and see how it looks. All right, so there it is. So I'm gonna end up leaving it there. I'm gonna connect the return right here, and then the feed line is gonna go on the bottom. So here's the feed line on the bottom, and this is gonna be my return. That was the best spot I was able to find. It doesn't fit anywhere else. And I was gonna run the line to the bottom of the reservoir, but it doesn't clear, so I have no choice but to do it like that. I mean, it's gonna work the way it is, and that's all I want. I want it to work. I'm gonna clean up all the brackets. Like this one, I'm gonna clean it up, and this one, I'm gonna clean it up as well. I'm gonna powder coat them. So once I finish everything, I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna take this bracket off. I also want to powder coat the intercooler pipes. They're not gonna stay like that. I want them black. So right now they don't look that nice, but once I powder coat them, I think they're gonna look a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish running these lines. I'm gonna connect the return, the feed line, and I'm gonna move on to the coils. All right, so there it is. That's how my hoses are gonna run to the return and to the feed line. So there's the feed line on the bottom and the return on top. And I'm already done with the feed line, and also there's the return right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do those coils, and then I have to remove the intake and do my fuel rail. Okay, so here's my coils with the new boots and the new springs. These are the old springs over here, and the old boots. These ones, they have a bunch of oil, and the wires, they have a bunch of oil too. I don't know if you're able to see, but they have a bunch of oil, so I'm not gonna use the wires anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and install these, and I'm gonna find new wires, and I'm gonna continue with the injectors now. Okay, I got a new set of ignition wires. So these are the NGKs. They're like 50 bucks, but I think they're worth it because they're gonna guarantee that I'm not gonna get a misfire because I have wires contaminated with oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and install them, and finally I'm gonna be able to move on to the injectors. Okay, so I just installed my coils and my wires. Now I'm gonna move on to the fuel rail. I'm gonna put it somewhere right here. I'm gonna do a bracket. I have 2 holes, one right here and one back here. I'm gonna do something so somehow I'm able to bolt it on. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the inserts that I got on the bottom of the intake, and I'm gonna put the adapters for the injectors so that they can go into the fuel rail. Then I'm just gonna figure out how long I have to do the bracket. I don't want to remove the intake manifold, but if I have to, I will. But hopefully I don't have to do it. Okay, so I got my injectors ready. I already put the fittings. They're like adapters and also the clips. Now I'm gonna install these on the intake. So these are for 14mm injectors. So these are gonna sit on this because the intake I'm using, if I just try to sit the injectors the way it is, it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these. I have to add silicone so that they seal properly. And then I can sit these on the intake. And I'm gonna start doing my brackets. Okay, so I got my fuel rail on. So this is how it's gonna look. All I gotta do is 3 brackets. So one from here to the intake, the middle to the intake, and the last one from here to the intake. And that's it. Once I finish doing my brackets, I'm gonna take everything off. I'm gonna powder coat everything that I want to powder coat, including the fuel rail. I wanna do the fuel rail as well. I end up removing the intake so I could do the brackets. I only did 2 of them, so here's one and here's the other one. Usually you have to do 3, but the rail is pretty stiff, so I'm just gonna leave 2 of them. I'm not gonna do the 3rd one. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rail. I'm gonna install the intake. I'm gonna leave it on the car now. I'm not gonna take it off anymore. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit and install it. I will remove the brackets. I'm gonna remove all of the brackets. I'm gonna powder coat everything that I want to powder coat. And once I finish powder coating everything, I'm just gonna install all the brackets, everything. And I think that's gonna be it. All I gotta do is the wiring, and I can finally try to crank it and see if it starts. This is how it looks so far. So I end up installing my intake and my fuel rail. I also finished my feed line. So it's going around the dipstick for the transmission to the back of the intake. Something simple. I've been holding the hood with pliers because the shocks don't work anymore. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install new ones. I got these for like 20 bucks. So for $20, might as well just throw new ones in. But that's gonna be it for this video. For the next video, I'm gonna try to finish the harness, connect everything like the vacuum lines, the wastegate, the blow off. I'm gonna powder coat whatever I need to powder coat, and hopefully I get this thing running. But like I said before, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer the best I can, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.